Here are the top 4 myths we are hearing about the NAR lawsuit changes.
Hello, welcome to the Monday Market Update with the Hatch Homes Group. You got Michelle and Angela here. She's back. Angela's back. And it feels great. Yes, we're really happy to have her back. So this week, we wanted to talk about the new changes in the real estate world. You may have or may not have been following the news and heard about the National Association's Realtors and the class action lawsuit against them. And this week in previous weeks we talked a lot about that, but this week we wanted to break down a little bit more for you.
Yeah, I mean, now that the rules have just been officially rolled out, we're already seeing some misinformation out there, and we thought, okay, these are the top 4 myths that we're hearing right now that we really want to break down for everybody.
Yeah, so we're going to be some myth busters this week.
Yes.
And myth number 1 is that sellers are not offering buyer agent compensation anymore. Not very true. I mean, technically, sellers never had to offer the buyer agent compensation, and it's the same now. However, there are reasons why sellers choose to offer the buyer agent compensation. And the change in a nutshell is just that we cannot market it in the multiple listing service. We can, however, market it with our flyers on our own personal website and things like that. In addition to that, that also means the change is that buyer agents are now going to have to negotiate their compensation within the offer in writing, which is a different way of doing things.
Yeah, I remember we used to not even be able to put any talk of commission in a contract, and now what a change everything is going to be.
You have to talk about it.
It's going to be in the offer. So I think that is kind of what they've talked about with having more transparency, right?
Absolutely. So again, that was while we cannot put the buyer agent compensation in the RMLS, we can still negotiate that so home buyers can afford the home.
Yeah, so buyer's agent compensation is not really going anywhere like the myth some people think.
Yeah.
Myth 2, home prices will go down because buyer's agent compensation inflated home prices. Man, this one's kind of offensive to me, and I've heard very reputable sources say this, and it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
I have yet to be on a listing appointment where a seller wants to reduce the price of their home to compensate for not offering a buyer's agent compensation.
No.
Most, if not all, sellers are I want the most for my home.
Yeah.
And that's great that maybe I can negotiate or not offer a buyer's agent compensation, but they're not factoring that into reducing the price of what they are asking for. We could go into that a little bit more, but that's in a nutshell. That is, I'm not seeing that directly correlated. Now, if we think about and we know what actually inflated home prices, it's almost like, how dare you try to blame that on buyers?
On realtors.
On buyers getting representation. But with that said, the very, very low interest rates, right? When interest rates were 2%, 3%, 4%, buyers were offering well over list price.
Yeah.
That was establishing comparable sales, so that was really increasing. That was inflating home prices.
That was inflating the prices because of the competition.
Yeah, these multiple
classic
offers.
Supply and demand, right?
Everything was 75, 100,000 over list price. That is exactly what inflated it. And then, of course, the government not setting up a whole generation for having adequate housing. We have a supply and demand issue. Not enough homes for sale for a population of people. Yeah. So those are the things that inflated home prices, not a buyer getting representation to purchase a home.
Absolutely.
We want to protect that. We want buyers to purchase.
Yeah, we want people to be homeowners. It's such a big wealth building tool in life.
It's what they say that is the number one, home ownership is the number one way the average American can gain wealth in their lifetime. We want to protect that. We want to make it easier for buyers to get into a home.
Yeah.
So this kind of piggybacks on the next myth is that these changes benefit home buyers. Now, I've seen reputable sources, kind of like what I mentioned before, like NPR, do full articles and reels on how this is going to really benefit a buyer.
Yeah, that article from NPR is pretty false, actually, because let's talk about who the real benefactor is here. Leaving off, in fact, it could be more expensive for buyers. And this is because they are now signing a contract with their buyer's agent about the compensation that is the fee that your buyer's agent is charging you. And it may not be you. Again, it's going to be negotiated through the contract, and the sellers are not obligated to pay it. But in a scenario, say the buyer's agency agreement that you're signing with your agent as a buyer says it's 2.5%, say, and the sellers are offering less than that, there's a difference that will have to be made up from the buyers. So that can make it more expensive. And then let's not even talk about like the other costs that are involved for buyers when they buy a home, like closing costs, down payment, inspection fees, all the things that go within their costs. That's coming from buyers' savings. Sellers already have equity that they can pull from, and that's where their fees can come from, and the compensation can come out of that. So I think in the end, like, it's really not benefiting home buyers as much as as people are saying in the media.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not seeing where it's benefiting home buyers at all, except I do think it's a benefit for a home buyer to have a signed agreement with an agent. I do think that's a benefit because, it benefits a buyer's agent, but also benefits a buyer because you have in writing that the buyer's agent has a fiduciary responsibility to you.
Exactly.
But other than that, like, this isn't going to financially be a win for buyers. Yeah. It actually is a bit of a hurdle for them to get, like what you said, if they need to save up extra money to pay for their agent, then that's an extra hurdle to home buyers, home ownership, and that's what we don't want.
Yeah. Again, it's negotiable still, but we've talked about that before. The other myth 4 is sellers who offer a buyer agent compensation are essentially paying for someone to negotiate against them. That's
this is a really interesting one. I haven't really gotten this from a seller directly, but I've seen people talk about it on the internet, and I think that's really interesting. Because I get it. Why would, I'm a seller, why would I pay the buyer's agent to represent a buyer, and then they're going to negotiate against me in repairs, and they're going to beat me up, all that kind of stuff. So I can get where that myth comes from. But if you actually look at it, having good representation on both sides strongly benefits both parties. And that includes the seller. So, sale fails, having your house on the market, getting a buyer, that buyer backs out, that can really, really cost a seller thousands of dollars. That can be, and not to mention time on the market, which is detrimental to sellers. So having a good buyer's agent that knows how to keep a deal together, quite frankly. Because we've seen buyers that,
back out over the littlest things.
Or back out over something that's very fixable, or that's going to come up on every single house. I've had buyers look at me with the fear of God in their eyes over a broken sewer pipe that we know happens all the time and is very fixable. And if you back out on this house, you wasted all your inspection fees for another house.
Plus money,
that it's going to happen again on.
Yeah.
So, those types of things, a good buyer's agent can really help keep a buyer in contract.
Yeah, and that's what sellers want. And buyers, right? Together. So another benefit that, within that is that having a buyer agent or represent the buyer, they're going to help their buyers structure an offer that's going to be very beneficial for the sellers as well as the buyer. But you want a buyer's agent that's going to present an offer that is sweet for the sellers.
Especially in a multiple offer situation.
Yes, especially in multiple offer situations. So we want it to be a win-win for everybody, and a great offer will help the sellers maximize their sale and also help the buyers keep it together and find the home that they really want.
Yeah, I mean, in multiple offer situations, particularly, there's a lot of things that a good buyer's agent helps their buyer figure out on, how do you have to write this offer to get your offer accepted. And, I don't think that most buyers would know how to sweeten their offer as strongly as a good buyer's agent does. So that's really, multiple offers, having a good buyer's agent, really, it benefits the seller. And, hey, our buyers are happy because they get in the house.
Yeah. So yes, all of these myths, there's probably some more. If you want to talk about it, please let us know. There's a lot of information out there. But don't let it scare you. With the right agent by your side like us, we can definitely guide you through these and help it be a win-win situation for everybody. So don't be scared and reach out anytime.